speaking another language. I'm like, wow, that kid's learned Italian. You know, like, it's just, how clever is that kid? How clever is that Italian child? Our kids can only speak English.
I mean, look. Here's one of the things I always talk about. This is that when comedians come to HI Santa Monica, and they used to do those shows and everything like that, a lot of the times afterwards they kind of said, they're like, wow, I've never realized how much I haven't traveled, how much I haven't experienced, just because of all my references are so local or just regional. And I think, Claude, obviously, you're somebody who, I don't know, you've performed in Antarctica, pretty sure. So, you've done shows all over the place. Do you feel as a performer that it's important for you to play not only just as many countries as you can, but many different types of people as you can?
Oh yeah, 100%. I've seen a lot of comedians in LA who I think they're brilliant, but they haven't got out of that bubble, and they're just making immediate assumptions about everyone. They're like, oh yeah, everybody here, I'm sure they hate Trump, and they live in an apartment that they spend too much money, and that they're all they know is their life.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. They don't know beyond that, and so yes, I do think it's important to perform for people from different perspectives who disagree with you and who have different upbringings, and it's just more interesting, and it challenges you. And Mike, this just hit me. So Matt, when I would do the show Comedy in English with Mike, sometimes I get there early and I would help him promote. He'd give me some flyers, I'd walk around and hand them to people. And I vividly remember this for some reason. I got on the elevator, which is very lazy because there's like 2 floors. I don't know why I just didn't walk. But I get on there, and there's a gentleman. It was just myself and this other gentleman, and I don't know where he was from. Maybe Bulgaria, maybe Romania, possibly Kosovo. But I do know one thing about this guy. He didn't know what. I know that because all I said was this. I gave him the flyer, and I said, hi, there's a comedy show. It's at 8:30. It's free, and there's also free snacks and drinks. And he looks at me really seriously, and he goes, I don't like music. I don't play any. That's great. This is going to work out, But I remember Mike and I were joking about, like, does he go through his entire day doing this? Does he answer questions no one ever asked him? Like, is he at a restaurant and the waiter's like, our special tonight, we have Salisbury steak and we also have potato au gratin with a seafood platter. I don't like foosball. We're not going to play it. We're going to eat. But like, Mike, how often would you say you ran into characters like that?
Oh my God! I mean, do you remember? There was. I don't think you were there that night, but there was the woman with the banana. The banana woman. there was this woman. There was this woman who came out, and she walks out of the room and she goes, "Do you have any other snacks? Perhaps a banana?" And I said, unfortunately, this is all I have. I'm like, these are pretty healthy. You can try this. And I gave her this like biscuit, like a Nutri-Grain bar or whatever it is type of thing. And she takes a bite out of it and goes, "Puh!" and spits it out.
Oh my God.
And I was like, what country is this acceptable behavior? There's no way that this is just commonplace. Like,
no, that's just a crazy person. That's a bad person. I remember that, like, stand-up is pretty global now. Most countries in the world, if not all countries in the world, have some version of it. But I think that's fairly new. I think YouTube, the internet, is responsible for that. Years ago, like, there wasn't really anything. Like, France, for example, did not have until relatively recently what you would identify as like modern, like conventional stand-up, one person standing at a microphone talking to the audience, rather than like these sort of one-person sketches or multi-person sketches or clowning or whatever. I remember years ago trying to explain my job to some French girl in London, and the closest she got was, "So you like one of those people who stands in supermarkets talking about special offers?"
She thought you were a promotions barker in a supermarket.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
like I give out samples, and that's my job.
Well, oh gosh. Well,
That's
I
hilarious.
stand in front of a little pyramid of cans, and
well, one of the things is that I think you're right though, Matt, in regards to like social media and YouTube and everything like that. Definitely has globalized, for lack of a better term, traditional stand-up comedy. Although nowadays most of traditional stand-up comedy means, hey, I have a podcast. I'm going to go up here and do a Q&A for 45 minutes. And then promote my TikTok, but the setup punch, the punchlines, act outs, all that stuff. I think people are much more familiar with that type of thing. For the longest time, the layperson did not seem to understand the difference between stand-up comedy, improv comedy, and sketch comedy. They saw it all as the same animal.
right,
Oh, wow.
and also when it was new, like the internet has, there are a few like cheats in different languages that the internet has put an end to. Like there's been a few different cases of people who were caught years later, like who got famous in their own countries, and then it like turns out like you were just translating like Carlin and Seinfeld bits into your local language.
What?
Oh man.
Yeah, there's been a few. There's been a few like that, and they got busted years later because YouTube existed and people would watch those like classic routines in English and just be like, that's his bit in Italian. What's like?
That's crazy. I mean, Matt, we've look. I've been guilty of this. Every once in a while, you're ensconced in comedy. You're hearing all these jokes, and every once in a while, you're on stage and you'll segue, and then you'll say something. Go, wait, where did I hear that? And then you're like, oh my god, that is not my line. And like,
Yeah,
that
was a constant worry. I think in any creative field, you're always worried that, like, did I come up with that originally, or did I like at any level? Like Paul McCartney apparently spent days after he woke up with the melody. I think it was for Yesterday. Just checking with everyone he knew. Like, is this something? Is this a tune that other people have done? So yeah, you're constantly worried about like those little things creeping in. But I'm talking about like entire routines,
That's
like
crazy.
word for word.
I will tell you this. I'm not going to say who it is, but you will definitely know who it is because they've become insanely popular off of the podcast. But this gentleman who I've always gotten along with, we're cool now and everything. But a while back, I want to say maybe 08, around 08 or something. I saw him on TV do word for word a line that I did. And it's just very specific. It's not like, hey, dating's crazy. It was a very...
Wait, first off, dating must have been crazy for Claude Stewart if that's how he reacted when he went on dates.
But it was like, and I didn't even see it right away. My friend goes, dude, I recorded it. Watch this. I was like, okay. And I had his number, called him up, and I said, hey, man, just so you know, I do the same thing. And I wouldn't go in, how dare you? I just said, I do the same line, blah, blah, blah. And I swear to God, the reaction was, man, well, Claude, you've been doing comedy longer than me. Do you mind if I just do it on the road and I won't do it in town? That was, and so I just calmly said, it's weird. I have no patience with little shit, but with big things, I'm very calm. And I go, buddy, you can do it, but I'm telling you, we work the same clubs, and the owner might go, hey, that's Claude Stewart show. I just left it as that, But, now I'm about to do Texas for 4 nights for free potato chips, and he's selling out theaters. So, maybe it doesn't matter at this point.
I saw a bit of mine done on an Amazon Prime show this year. I'm not going to mention which show. And then I looked at the writing staff, and sure enough, of course, there were stand-ups on the staff. So I think a lot of it times, I'm not going to say that any of these people lifted my material intentionally, but I think subconsciously, I think it just falls into, they're pitching in the room. And it's like, oh, and then there's just like, blah, 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 blah. I remember I was in a room once and this guy did this, blah, blah, blah. And you don't even remember that wasn't there. That wasn't like a bit. Yeah. They just think it was an experience they had type of a thing. They don't even remember that it was somebody doing a bit.
Then there's the argument, is someone saying it to their roommate in an Amazon Prime show different than Majid saying his own joke on
Rivers, can you hear me, dude?
Yeah, hold on. Let's switch this over to my headphones.
Guys, if you were just watching people earlier doing stand-up comedy or commenting on international comedy, that was a stream from a previous episode. We're about to start a brand new show with the one and only Rivers Langley, who's in the room right now as you speak. We do have a private Zoom room if you want to join us in there, interact with us. That is on Eventbrite. Go to Comedy in English on Eventbrite, and you can find that. We will be starting in a couple minutes right now. Hold on. Let me just check in with Charlotte, see where she's at. WhatsApp. All these time zones, so hard to keep everything in track, on track.
Yeah,
you know how it is.
crazy thing to do.
I know. Oh, hold on. Android 4DS. I wonder if that's her. Emergency call. Of course it is. All right. All right. Emergency call is here. That's always good. We'll be starting in a second here. All right. Let me just check in with Charlotte. You close? Just checked in with her.
There we go. Okay. Got my headphones working.
Oh, look at that, dude. You sound so professional. You sound so professional. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. I just checked in with Charlotte. If I don't hear back from her, we will just get going regardless. That's a weird thing. I don't know if I like that. That's better. Yeah. That looks much cleaner, I believe. All right. Let's see where she's at. What are the chances that somebody over in Europe got the time wrong, Rivers?
Hey.
Strong chance or strong chance?
What is it, like 9 p.m. over there, UK?
Probably. I think I think it's 8 p.m. in the UK, but it's probably 9 p.m. in like Spain. So just check in how close she is. We will give it a couple more minutes here. Hold on. All right. English. Just I will send this. Sent. Just checking. All right. All right. And I'll just send the link here. And worst case scenario, we'll just get going without her, which is fine. So I'll give it like one more minute, and then if she shows up, she shows up, and if she doesn't, it's fine, because Rivers and I can handle an hour. We can do it.
I can gab.
You can definitely gab. All right. All right. Okay. You know what? I'm not sure where she's at right now. So let's just get this just going, huh? Shall we? Here we go.
All right.
All right, guys, welcome back to Comedy in English, the only international comedy show / comedy podcast. Why is it also a podcast? Because we figured out during the pandemic that a traditional stand-up comedy show doesn't really work. I am Michael Magid. I will be your host for the evening. And speaking of hosts, I have one of the co-hosts of the amazing podcast, The Goods from the Woods, and an international savant himself, the one and only Rivers Langley, joining us. What's up, Rivers?
Hey, Michael, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm really excited to have you on this show, dude, because honestly, for a lot of people who out there who don't know, Rivers isn't just an accomplished headlining comedian, but he's also been a professional tour guide for years and years. So, Rivers, why don't you talk a little bit about that first?
So I've been a tour guide here in Los Angeles now since 2014. Kind of got into it because prior to that, I was working at a grilled cheese sandwich store, and that sucked. And a friend of mine, former comedian, he fell in love and got married and had a child and fucking quit, loser. But anyway, a friend of mine came into the store pretty regularly to get overly priced grilled cheese sandwiches, and we would chat. And finally, it's interesting. Like whenever I talk to my parents, my parents will always, I'll speak about some friend and they're like, "What do they do?" And I'm like, I don't know. It never comes up. I think that's I don't know if that's just a me thing or whatever. But at any rate,
I just love the transition from like grilled cheese sandwich shop to international tour guide, because that's usually, that's a very much of a parallel move, isn't it?
Yeah, well, so I was chatting up with Kevin Macias, shout out, and I was like, finally, I was like, what's your job, by the way? What are you doing in this part of town? And he was like, oh, I work at this tour company. I basically drive around rich people in an unmarked minivan and lie to them about where Taylor Swift lives. So I was like, oh shit, that sounds rad, man. If there's ever an opening, let me know, because I was like, I'm a comedian with a clean driving record, and I have a history degree, so I was like, I feel like I could do that pretty good, and got an interview and got the job. And it was weird because after I stopped working at the grilled cheese sandwich store, I just started losing weight all of a sudden for no reason. It was really strange. But yeah, to not be completely surrounded by bread and butter and cheese every single day as my free shift meal. But yeah, started doing it then. And it's funny because at that point I had only lived in LA, like a full year basically. So I'm just like telling these people, like, they're like, oh, how long have you been here? I'm like, oh, I've been here for years.
They're like, I'm from the San Fernando Valley. They're like, that sounds like not an accent from the San Fernando Valley. I've only been here for 30 seconds, but pretty sure that's not the San Fernando Valley accent.
So a funny thing about that, and I'm sure you might have experience with this, but just for fun, if I have people from other countries on the tour, I like to get them to do their American accents. I'm like, what do you think we sound like? And everybody's go-to is either like Valley Girl, like, oh my God, look at her butt, or Forrest Gump. Like those are the two people can do. And the fact that I am of both of those places, it's like it's enheartening.
Well, I think I love the thing about that, because it's making me think of just in the regards to the fact of like, and we talk about this when we're talking about doing, comedy, to people from all over the world, is that everyone has a different perception or point of view of what the American is or what America is. I mean, I literally had somebody from Australia like about a month ago or so, who I met at a 1-year-old's birthday party. I as you do, you meet people.
You hang out at all the cool places.
I hang out at all the cool places. They happen to be related to this 1-year-old. That would be weird if they had just traveled to the United States from Australia, 17-hour flight, and they're like, you know what I want to do? I want to go see a 1-year-old smash a birthday cake. But they were shocked because they thought when they got off in Los Angeles that there were going to be military soldiers everywhere, that was going to be barricaded. They thought it was going to be like literally like a PS5 game. Like that's what they thought it was going on. It was like literal war zone, because that was the information they were being fed.
Yeah. Well, funny you mentioned that. I did have a group when that was actually going on. They were from India, and they were staying literally at the DoubleTree across the street from the LAPD. And this is like when the shit was actually going down. And I picked them up, or it was an early tour. I picked them up at like 8 a.m. So there was nobody on the street, but I did have to be like, so in case we can't come back here, is there maybe a second location that you might want to go, because this might be chaotic at the end of the day. And but it was fine, like I think most people with their heads screwed on straight know, we showed up and there was a lot of people on the street and everybody had funny signs and it was whatever. Those things usually don't turn crazy until the cops show up and start shooting people for some reason. That's usually when it gets going. If you just left to their own devices, practicing free speech in the street is usually pretty chill. You might just have to be slightly delayed when driving around such a thing. But I did send up, because after I dropped them off, I drove around the back of the hotel to turn around and get back on Temple to go back to my house. And when I did, I saw about maybe 150 cops like staging behind the hotel. So I did hopped on Twitter for the first time in forever and kind of sent up the bat signal like, hey, just so everybody out there protesting knows, they're ready for war back here behind the DoubleTree. So interesting day, but I was a little concerned in the morning. I was like, this might be, I know you booked this hotel a long time ago, but you picked a great place. Just an absolute great place to be staying during this particular time.
It's funny that you said all of that just in regards to, like everybody having a good time and everything like that, because like when it comes to like comedy, right? Like one of the big things about comedy, and I think a lot of times a lot of comedians, they miss the boat on this. A lot of us, let's just say, are a little, for lack of a better term, narcissistic, or, kind of like in our own world or in our own bubble. And like, we think it's like, no, it's about what I want to say. It's like, it is,
yeah.
But at the same time, like, if it's about what you want to say, then like, have people come in to have you give a rally speech or something like that. Like they're also here to be entertained. So like, if you have something to say, you have to make it interesting and you have to make it entertaining for people, and I think a lot of times people forget the word is, there's stand-up has the word comedy in it. Like if there's not anything derivatively funny about this, then you're just talking. You're just talking, So I don't know. Just getting off my soapbox on that one, but thoughts?
Yeah. Well, honestly, it's kind of, not obviously as heady as that, but similar to the job, right? It's like, okay, I've got this information I need to convey, so figure out how to make it entertaining. So part of my thing with the tour is I care about history and I genuinely like sharing history with people, but you got to figure out how to make it funny. So I got my stock jokes in there. I got my things to say, but as far as political stuff goes, unfortunately at this point in my life and my finances, my opinions are not more valuable than my tips. So when I have Americans, if every once in a while we get like MAGA grandpa, I'm just like, oh yeah, that's crazy. Anyway, that hotel over there was built in 1927 or whatever. I'm a master of changing the subject. But if I have groups from other countries, it's like in most Western countries, our Democrats, our left wing would be their like pretty hard right wing.
Yeah.
So I can just go nutty with it. So I always love getting political questions from people from other countries, because like, who gives a shit, whatever.
But you just brought up a really good point, Rivers. But because like when we're talking about like doing comedy for people from other countries and vice versa and everything like that, is that again, everything is relative to like what you know and like what you're familiar with. And like, so if you say like, if you make a political statement on a stage, let's say it's somewhere like HI Santa Monica, that comedy in English show that used to take place in the hostel, you got people from different walks of life and they all have different definitions of what left and right means, right?
Yeah. My favorite times doing that show, honestly, was with my co-host on my podcast, Goods from the Woods, Sam Harder, when he would do it, because I think Sam is, for people who aren't from here, he is some like platonic version of an American that most people like have in their head, in a way, in terms of his act, just this very like dry affect, and Sam, if you've never seen him, has very long hair and a huge beard. And my favorite thing ever was he would start doing, kind of somewhat crowd work, but start talking to people. He'd be like, "Oh, you're from England? You want to buy a gun? I could sell you a gun right now." And him trying to sell them like crack and a gun is so goddamn funny to me. So I always loved watching Sam kill on that show because he was I don't know, I was like, he's some version of what they have in their head of us, in a way.
That's actually really funny because now for those of you guys who are not familiar with Sam, definitely check out Goods from the Woods. Check out that show. Great show. Really, really awesome. I've been on it, I think, twice now, and I think it was just an absolute blast doing that show every single time I've done it. But the thing about Sam is that I think the funniest thing I ever saw once is that I was literally looking at my phone. I got a notification like, Sam is currently going live from the Jack in the Box on Sunset. And
our stream
literally was just inside a Jack in the Box, streaming inside the Jack in the Box. And like, there was no shtick to it. It was just a live stream at a Jack in the Box. And I was like, wow, this is literally what most people from overseas think Americans are like, is eating inside a Jack in the Box, just on a Tuesday. It's just what they do.
Did you see because you're talking, we were doing a live stream there for a while on Thursdays, and now Sam got a job, so we've kind of cooled down on that a little bit. Hopefully we'll be able to bring it back at some point. But Sam and I would walk around the city, and on days when I was working, Sam would just go solo. But one of the times I did go with him, the big thing was trying out novelty fast food items. So anytime, it's like, oh, Wendy's has a stupid thing this month. All right, well, we could try that on the stream. And that's kind of with our, we'd have a mission for every stream to go try something stupid at a fast food place. But there was one where we just went to a Jack in the Box, and it was the one at Santa Monica and Vine. So for those listening, like the middle of Hollywood. And Hollywood is not maybe what you have in your mind if you've never been here. Hollywood is a fairly working class neighborhood, to put it nicely, and there's a lot of people with a lot of drug issues wandering around, particularly in a place like Jack in the Box, which is a fast food place that's open 24/7, or at least the drive-through is.
It's a place where if you may not have consistent shelter, you may want to spend a lot of time.
Yeah, and the one in Hollywood's like pretty new. It's pretty nice actually. We were in there by ourselves, and I'm sitting at a table like holding the phone and talking to our chat, and it was awesome because Sam is just in the background ordering. So I got this on film, but he orders like a breakfast sandwich. They do breakfast all day, and he gets the breakfast sandwich, and as they go to hand it to him, this lady standing behind him like tries to grab it, and the whole thing like falls on the ground, and she like runs out, and Sam is just like, so I'm talking, I'm like, what's up, chat? What's good? In the background, Sam gets his sandwich, and she's like, what the fuck? And so,
oh my God.
You can see that on my Instagram. I put up that clip because it was so insane. They made him a new sandwich, but a lady did try to steal his sandwich out of his hand.
You see, it's funny that I love the fact that you brought up when you were telling that story here, on the show. You brought it up in a way that it was universal, that anyone who had never been to a Jack in the Box could experience that joke and not joke, but story, moment for lack of a better term, and enjoy it and appreciate it, because I think that's one of the main issues. And I've spoken about this on the show multiple times with different comedians, is that they will give a reference that in their mind is considered a universal reference, but they don't realize that it's actually regional, because they just assume, oh, Jack in the Box is everywhere. It's like, actually, no, that's a regional fast food place. So if you don't give the context of what a Jack in the Box is, people are not going to appreciate it. Again, you only know what you know.
Yeah, Jack in the Box is what if we put everything in a fryer? And when I say everything, I mean cheesecake, egg rolls, French fries, burgers, chicken. Like it is a hot oil bath for the most perplexing menu of all. They have tacos with American cheese on the undercarriage of the shell, which I found so thoroughly bizarre. But I don't know. I say this, but I'm also a sicko that I kind of love the Jack in the Box egg rolls. Like if I just need like a snack, just a little tiny snack, man, I'll hit one Jack in the Box egg roll with some sweet and sour. That shit's good, you know. I mean, it's deep fried, but it's kind of vegetables.
No,
You know?
speaking of that, I just got literally as you're talking about Jack in the Box, I literally just got a text message from a fast food place right now as we speak.
Oh, it's because your phone's listening to you, bro.
It's so terrifying.
Dude,
just reminding me about my rewards points that are just sitting there for my $10 off. So, yeah,
I got my my COVID booster 2 days ago, and normally when I go to the doctor, I put my phone on airplane mode, so my phone isn't listening to the doctor tell me my fucking maladies or whatever, you know. But I'd forgotten to do it when I went to the CVS, so I went to the little room to get my shot, and you know, had the phone on, and sure enough, man, I left the shot spot, got to my car, pulled up Instagram, and it was already just like, you know, whatever, like stuff about, you know, treatment for COVID, and you're like, but I just did that, you fucking idiot. This doesn't work if you don't understand the context that you're stealing my information from. Like,
yeah. That happened to me last week. I purchased something and then I see it coming up on my Facebook feed over and over again. I'm like, dude, I just fucking bought it. Like you defeated the whole purpose of this. Like if I had been in the store and had it in my cart and then left the site, I would understand. But now you're just pissing me off and making me not want to buy the product again.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what that's like? That's like the comic that just did your show and then sends the email as they're getting off stage about doing it again.
Hey man, that's called follow through. You know, we admire that. That's moxie. Not annoying at all.
That's a deep cut. That's a deep cut right there. Very inside baseball, which ironically is also an inside baseball term, to use the term inside baseball.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was funny after I got the COVID booster though, or when I was getting it, I should say, the guy giving the shot, pharmacist, I guess, CVS dude with a white coat. He goes, he was like, "Do you know when you got your last booster?" And I was like, "Yeah, the day after the election last year." It was very easy to remember because I was like, "Oh, this will probably not be a thing in a year, so I should probably get this now." And so fortunately, we're still here. So, you know.
Well, we do live in the state. We do live in the state of California. Although I did get an email, you know, for those who are guys watching around the world, just for some of you guys who might not be familiar, is that healthcare is not. We don't have universal healthcare in the United States. We have subsidized healthcare for lower income people, until December 31st, 2025. In which case we don't know. Which is one of the reasons why the government is shut down in the United States right now. And I think that's another thing too. You know, Rivers, in regards to like context for things. You know, you tell somebody from overseas, you know, oh, the government is shut down. In their mind, they're thinking that the country is shut down, like it's, you know, like stay-at-home orders, like everyone's at home. No, it's not. It's not like out there right now is complete anarchy. Like things are still going. What government shutdown means just like a lot of federal programs are currently closed.
Yeah, it just means that the poorest among us are fucked currently, is what that means. It doesn't actually affect normal, or, you know, not normal, but you know, higher income people in any way.
Well, and you know,
keep living their lives.
But they freak out too, because I think, you know, a lot of people in regards to, and I've had these conversations with people who want to come to the United States, and they go, "Oh, can I come there right now? Because I heard you're shut down." And you know, like I heard you're shut down. Like I'm like, yeah, you can come here. The past, you know, like the borders are still, you know, still open with your passport, and you know, you can still travel freely for the time being. And
we're still a country technically, yes.
Yeah. I want to ask you this, Rivers, you know, because obviously, you know, you and then we really appreciate it, you know, how much time and effort you put into the Comedy in English show when it was taking place at HI Santa Monica. What were some of the crowds there that you felt worked the best in that type of a venue, in that type of an environment, where they have a lot of comedians that are, for lack of a better term, you know, domestic American and Canadian?
I mean, you know, it's always fun to chop it up with folks from Ireland. That's probably my favorite. So anytime you got Irish or British folks, I could kind of, you know, tailor, because I feel like of all the kind of cultural exchanges as far as media goes, Americans, or at least I am probably best familiar with that kind of Anglosphere Irish area. So I could kind of chop it up with them. And then the Canadians, obviously, it was always a little tougher if they were Scandinavian, because it was a thing of like in Scandinavia, they have incredibly good English for the most part, but the cultural context is, I know zero things. So I was always kind of like looking for a light switch in the dark. I'm like, all right, what do these people fucking like? I got to kind of figure it out. But no, I always had a good time with that. And then, get your random South Americans in there too. That was always fun. So,
it's fun. It's funny that you said that, because like in regards to the the Scandinavians and everything, and obviously Finland is a little bit different. But I recently had an audition to play a person from Finland, and one of the things that casting told me is that in Finland, small talk is not a thing. Like, people like to get to the point, which can come across as rude in the United States, for instance. So, I found that just fascinating, because like, we have had people from Finland in the crowd, at the Comedy and English show. And I think that's why the crowd work with that group of people might be a little bit difficult, because they're not trained into that type of engagement and an interaction, on a casual level, if that makes any sense.
Right. Yeah, no, Germans are kind of the same way. Actually, I've spent a little bit of time in Germany, and I took German classes in high school and college, and then actually went to Germany. I was like, oh, everybody here speaks English. Why the fuck am I learning this language? I was in Germany for at least 3 weeks, and I ran into exactly one guy who did not speak English, and it was a dude who he had dreadlocks like down to his ass, and he was running a bong store in Heidelberg. And I walked by it, and I saw all the bongs in the window, and I thought it'd be like an American head shop with posters and records and incense and shit. And I went in, and it was like, nope, just floor to ceiling glass, just
a bong warehouse, very efficient.
Yeah, just harsh lighting, no music. They weren't even playing Bob Marley in there, man. And I was like, oh, okay, well, there's nothing in here for me. And then this giant Teutonic barbarian German man comes around the corner, and it's just like, starts speaking in German. I was like, oh, ich bin Amerikaner, ich spreche kein Deutsch. And I'm kind of like backing out. But that was the one guy the whole time I was in the country that I ran into. But yeah, very, very similar thing. Very, very direct people, which when I have them on, because it's different with comedy, obviously, because I've only got 10-20 minutes to do my thing. When I have it on, when it's on the tour and they're not giving me anything, I will harass them. Like, I will just like bludgeon them with just being like, hey, especially if they understand me. It's always just it's funny to me. I'll say a joke, and then I get nothing, and I'll just go, nothing. So I don't know. It's a lot lower stakes with the tour guide thing, because I'm with them for 7 hours generally.
I think, and by the way, if anybody was trying to watch this show on Instagram, I apologize. I forgot to press go live on Instagram Live. So sorry about that, guys.
Let's start over.
We'll start. Welcome back to Comedy in English. I'm Michael. What if we did that? What if I literally just tried to redo everything we had just done without a transcript? So that would have been difficult.
Yeah.
It's funny with the bong thing, because I'm just picturing like, the show Severance, like if Lumen Industries ran a bong, like a head shop, like that's what I'm kind of picturing. Like very corporate, like that. Have you not watched Severance?
I have not. No, I'm bad about comedies. I just watch like, murder documentaries and, just boring shit mostly, and then rewatch Casino for the millionth time. I don't know. If a TV show is already over, I'm more likely to jump in, because I'm just like, I don't want to do this whole thing. So no, I've not seen Succession. I've not seen Severance. I'm basically, as far as comedy goes, I'm pretty much limited myself to Danny McBride exclusively. That's who my heart belongs to. Other than that, I'm just like, I don't know. I'll get to it eventually.
Well, once Rivers finishes the entire box set of Righteous Gemstones, Eastbound and Down, Vice Principals, and what was the other one that he had? So he had another.
I think that's it.
Is that it?
Yeah, I think so. The very slept on Observe and Report, which is pretty much the whole same crew except just plus Seth Rogen. That's the movie from 2009 that unfortunately came out about a month either before or after Paul Blart Mall Cop, so nobody saw it. But it's if you like that Jody Hill, Danny McBride sort of shit, highly recommend that. We did a podcast over the summer where we did a whole year in review for 2009, and I was like, oh yeah, man, Observe and Report. And I went back and watched it. I was like, fuck, it's the darkest thing Seth Rogen will ever do. Like it just won't happen again. It's kind of like if Taxi Driver was a comedy, but it's unspeakably dark, but an amazing movie.
Talking about that, you're talking about, films and TV shows and comedies and everything like that. I think, one of the things when it comes to international comedy or doing comedy for a diverse audience, universal audience, is that not just the references and the cultural differences and everything like that, but like the style of comedy. There are certain styles of comedy that just resonate better with different groups of people. For instance, I found that people from South America really resonate with physical comedy and slapstick comedy. That's a very much, and if you watch a lot of their content, it's got that element to it. So a comedian that's high energy or physical and everything like that is going to do better with that group of people. The opposite here, if you do that with a group of Scandinavians, it looks like a crazy person on stage gyrating all over the place because they are completely silent, because they like more dry and subtle humor.
We should really go be the Prometheus of bring the fire from Mount Olympus to Sweden of stool humping. That's what we should. They don't know real comedy until we're Joe Roganing up there and humping everything on stage. No, this is only somewhat related, but it's fun. So this past summer, I had just one of the most just bizarre but kind of interesting and fun experiences doing touring. It was doing the tour guide thing. I was told beforehand that this was going to be, because 99% of the tours I do are where I drive the van and I talk, because it's a regular minivan, nothing crazy. But every once in a while we get what's called a hop on, where the group has already rented a big vehicle and I just get on and talk into the mic and then get off, and those can be challenging just anyway, because usually the drivers of those they're not tour drivers. They drive people to the airport. And so they're going fast as fuck. And I'm like, over there on the left is this thing. Over there on the right is this. Like, I'm trying to talk really fast, and I'll literally have to like grab the driver sometime and be like, bro, you got to slow down. You have to slow down. You have to go slower. But anyway, it was going to be one of those. And I was told beforehand that the group was from Poland and that they were all in their 70s and 80s, which now you're adding a good 30 extra minutes to each stop for bathroom time and getting on and off the bus physically. But again, I've been doing this a long time. There's no curveballs for me. So I was just, okay, kind of factoring in the times that we needed to hit and everything to make it work. But also no one speaks English. And so the way it was going to work was they had their own tour guide for their American, they were going to all these cities, and this was like the coordinator, and he spoke English. So I was going to be giving the tour to him, and then he was going to be relaying it to the group. And I was like, okay, we'll make it work. Weirder things have happened. And so we get to, it's at Marina del Rey, so this nice resort down by the beach, and the bus pulls up, and it's this black, like super tinted windows, mini bus, probably I think a 40 passenger normally. And I get on the bus and I realize that it is a party bus.
What?
And it's like what you rent in Vegas for a bachelor party. It is a party bus complete with first of all, the seats were shaped in a U shape.
And this
so
was
that
not
all of the-
like ordered by the 70 and 80-year-old non-English speaking Poles.
I'll tell you in a moment, because
Okay.
that's what I thought. I thought, oh, this is some kind of mistake,
Yeah.
because all of the seats face inward. So their backs are to Los Angeles, the thing they're supposed to be looking at. So now these elderly people have to twist their broken spines to look out the window. And the reason that all of the seats were turned inward is because also the walls are like champagne flutes and shit. And there's, party lights, a disco ball, and in the middle is a stripper pole. And so, and I watched them all file onto the bus, and they get seated, and hilariously, one of the old ladies grabbed onto the stripper pole like it was the pole on the metro train.
No.
Like, and I was just sitting there thinking, like, lady, you might not want to touch that.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so I just thought, this is, it's just a mistake. It's kind of funny. They tried to get a regular mini bus, and the party bus showed up. And again, I'm just kind of like, yeah, we're rolling with it. So then I start talking to the guy, their guide who speaks English, and I was like, oh, so I was like, this is like some kind of like mix up or something. They gave us a weird bus, and the guy goes, oh no, I wanted something wild for LA, something wild. And I was like, they're 80, man. Like, they don't need wild. They need normal. They need really normal. What are you talking about? And he'd been with these people for weeks. Like, they'd been to San Fran, they'd been to New York, Vegas. But that's what he said to me. He goes, I want something wild for LA. And so while we're sitting there, the guy who drives the party bus is just what you're picturing, like total party captain, like, hey guys, like, welcome aboard the party bus kind of guy. And
he's got that like the strip club voice, like that kind of voice. Okay.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean,
let's
he's
welcome all of you from Warsaw to the table. Here we go.
Straight up. Yeah. And he goes, he's like, so this bus has Bluetooth, so if you want to hook your phone up to it, you can play the music back there. And I was just like, I don't think they want. I was just gonna talk. I don't think we need the music. And the guy, the Polish guy, just goes, oh no, I want you to play the music. I want the real LA music. I want the real LA music. So I just sat there for like while everybody was loading up on the bus.
He thought like Los Angeles was a TikTok reel, basically. Like that's what he groomed.
Which, here's the thing: if everyone in the group is 20, great, I get it. But this is like the most ancient, presumably pretty conservative folks from a country they don't speak the fucking language. Like this. Like, I don't know. I feel like if I'm lucky enough to reach that advanced age and I'm still able to travel, I'm gonna need things pretty normal, just to wrap my brain around. But anyway, while they were all loading on, I sat there and just loaded up a Spotify playlist of just the dirtiest rap music that I could find, because I was like, they don't speak English, who gives a shit? And so we were just rolling around listening to Tupac and Kendrick Lamar and Mobb Deep and shit. And I was like, here's the real LA music.
Oh wow. What's crazy about that is that they all have now their own TikTok streams, and all those people in Poland have thousands and thousands of followers now, and the channels just stream them going around the world, getting on party buses in countries that they don't understand.
Dude, yeah. I still play that mix occasionally. It ends up being a pretty good mix. It's just on my Spotify. It's a stripper mix.
That's unbelievable. I think, one of the fun things about that, Rivers, is that, people a lot of the time. Is this the bus?
That's the bus, and there's all the old people, and then you see the stripper pole in the middle there.
They literally look like they had just gotten out of like the Best Western on Highland, and and got on the wrong bus. Like, Unbelievable.
And they were staying at a resort. Like, these folks had money. Like, that
gosh.
was, it was fucking hilarious. So that was about the highlight of my summer.
It's funny that you said that, because like we've had situations at HI Santa Monica, with the Comedy and English show, where people did not understand what was taking place exactly. Like, I remember, I'm sure you've seen this too, multiple times. For those people who are unfamiliar with the show, we used to have some refreshments out for people, some drinks and snacks, out there. And I can't tell you how many times people would come in, they would hear the music playing prior to the show, see the drinks and snacks, grab some drinks and snacks and sit down. And then they would just like set up their own like area, and they would all like hang out and just start talking, because I think they just thought it was a lounge for the hostel.
Yeah, it was a mixer.
Like,
singles mixer.
It was so, and then like when the show started, they were so confused, because they're like, is this an orientation? Like, what's going on here exactly? So again, you have to be cognizant of these types of things, when you put on events, for groups of people. And shout out to people at HI Santa Monica. Honestly, like they did a pretty good job of trying to make people feel inclusive and never feel out of place, and I can attest a lot of that to, some of the front desk staff that, that I saw there, some other, stuff, sometimes a little bit out of their control, but like for the most part, I think it was a pretty inclusive experience. And I think, man, I think that's one of the tough things about, hosting a show like that, as opposed to just being a performer on a show like that. It's like, you want everyone to feel like they should want to be there. I can't tell you how many times I've found comedians who asked to host that show, and then during the show, you would see them basically trying to alienate groups of people to leave the room. And I'm like, oh no, you just want your own show. You just want a show with people that you feel comfortable with. That's not the whole point.
Yeah, I it's like a weird thing with comics, where I think, I'm trying to think of the most delicate way to say this, but a lot of times my question for comedians is, I'm like, do you want to win? Because winning is getting them all to laugh. You know what I mean? Like, it's like your agenda is whatever, and if you can't figure out how to make people laugh at it, then you lost. You didn't win what you were supposed. I think that's a pretty good way to put it, where it's not, because that's one of the things that always comes up in the discourse of just like, oh, you can't say anything anymore. I'm just like, yeah, but you can. You just have to figure out how to make it work. You know what I mean? And if you don't make it work, then you lost. And that's fine. Losing is part of life, but learn from it. Don't double down. If you suck at baseball, get better at baseball. Don't bitch about, they were throwing the ball too fast. Fuck you. Figure out how to hit it.
Well, you brought up a good point, because that is one of the things in regards to stretching yourself and experiencing and exploring and failing sometimes, is that, whatever it is in life. I literally was just having this conversation, with my sister earlier in regards to, a member of our family and a younger member of our family. And that if you don't consistently put yourself in an environment that challenges you, where you have to stretch, you're only going to be able to, like, if we use the term comedy, it's like, okay, cool. So, and this is a deep cut reference to people who don't know Los Angeles, but there's definitely a divide between East Side and West Side. It's a very different energy, but there's a lot of comedians that they only play the East Side because that's where they feel comfortable. I play the East Side. This is they're all just like me, and this is how I talk, and this is how I feel, and whatever. And that's great. That's awesome. But you can't go onto the West Side and then get pissed off that they're reacting differently to you than the people on the East Side. These are different human beings with different experiences and maybe different points of view. And so, explore and challenge and find ways that you can connect to these people. Again, I'm not trying to get on my soapbox here, but it's like, that's how I feel about it. And it's the same thing with comedy with other countries. It's like, don't get pissed off at Scandinavian because they're not laughing. Okay, find out how you can connect with this person. Maybe it's not laugh out loud laughter, but maybe there's a way that you can make them be entertained and feel good that they're there.
Yeah, well, that's just part of it, is just going. One of the funniest things to witness at Los Angeles open mics because notoriously there's no real people. It's all other comedians for the most part that you're performing for, and then maybe a few barflies if you're at like a dive bar somewhere. But one of my favorite things to watch, and one of the most painful things to sit through if you still have to go on, is if you're in a situation at an open mic where a crowd accidentally wanders in, like regular people, and they sit down and they're like, oh, I like stand up. And you watch these open mics people who all they do is perform for other comedians keep reading out of their notebooks and kind of like, throwing out half-baked concepts. You're like, hey, that thing you're working at, it's here. Just do your A shit right now. Like, come on. So being able to, I love going to an open mic and fucking around. That's half the fun of doing this. But if a group of people are there, it's like, buddy, I don't care if the comedians in the back have heard these jokes a million times. Like, I'm gonna do my good shit. I'm gonna try to. I want to win again. That's kind of how I think about it. So, and I think a lot of that, and I'd credit your show for that, and then the show that I ran in Santa Monica for many years over at West Side Comedy Theater, which it tended to be. We didn't really ever have a regular crowd, so week to week could be vastly different. I've had, Bernie Mac Def Jam sets there where I was like, I am comedy God. And then I've had sets where I was like, should I just walk into the fucking ocean? Like, I should just kill myself, right? Like, that was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And it was because that room it was a lot of like tourists and a lot of people who were just kind of like, oh yeah, they maybe heard that there's this little, it's because it was like a secret comedy club essentially in an alleyway at especially at the time, the first few years of that show. And so our crowds were pretty wild, and you just kind of learn to be on the fly with that. And then I try to make it a point to travel every spring. I essentially will take almost a month and try to get booked in just places that I've never been, because I think that's important. But also just, it's always been my suspicion that places that people maybe say are boring are actually low-key kind of cool. And I think that comes from the fact that I'm from Alabama, and Alabama is a place that most people are just like, why would you go there? And I'm like, well, there's cool shit. You just gotta dig for it. It's like being in a record store. Like, you gotta go underneath the crates and find the good shit. But so last year I did all of the hot spots: Buffalo, Cleveland, Indianapolis, Detroit, and Chicago. Which that's fun. Everybody knows Chicago is fun, but those other places, might have kind of a bit of a rep of people being like, what the fuck is going on in Indiana? And it's like, turns out Indiana fucking rules. I had a great time in Indianapolis. I did a Don't Tell comedy show at a tattoo parlor where they crammed like 60 people in there, and they moved the tattoo beds back and had a fucking great time. So, and to what you were talking about, it's like, yeah, you kind of got to go and meet people and see what the deal is. This past year, I went up to the Pacific Northwest, and through my friend Andy Awancio, who's based out of Seattle. She's hilarious. She got me hooked up with some people in there that I ended up doing just some of the most fun shows ever, including I've got one in Olympia, Washington, which is the capital of Washington State, and that's all I knew about it. And I go there, it's like, dude, it turns out Olympia, not only is it beautiful, man, that was one of the best sets I ever had. It was so fun. So you never know until you go. There was a
question about that really quickly in regards to the Olympia spot right there, because you said it was one of the best sets you've ever had. So my question to you, was it filmed?
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice, dude. Because usually when I hear someone say, "Oh, it was one of the best sets I ever had," no one will ever see it because I completely forgot to film it, or like, I don't know. A lot of the times, like, people are like, "This is gonna suck," and so like they don't film it, and then the next thing you know, that's like the best set they've ever had, type of thing. So, that's awesome. Congrats, dude. That's awesome.
Well, unfortunately, it's like 30 minutes. It's a 30-minute or maybe 40-minute long set. So like it's no good for like a festival submission or whatever. But yeah, I filmed it. Who Henry Rollins is, right?
Yeah.
So he has a great quote. He says, "Knowledge without mileage is bullshit." and I was like, ooh, that's where I live.
Right there. It's funny that Rivers, that when you're talking about, all these places that are, considered quote unquote boring, because I think when you've been to different places, and when you go to different places and you don't judge a place by a book by its cover type of a thing, you're going to learn more about that place, and it's going to make it easier for you to play anywhere because you're more familiar, with these places. I can't tell you how many times I've seen comedians, kind of like lambast or, like belittle, a group of people from a certain area, and they say, oh, that place sucks or whatever, but they've never actually been there before. So like, if you've actually been there and you've actually experienced these things, you can actually be in on the joke with them. You're like, you're from Olympia, blah, 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 blah. And then they're like, oh my God, that is kind of cheesy that we have that, going on. Or
yeah,
really cool.
Yeah. Like for instance, I've been to Charlotte, so I can say definitively it's the worst city in the world. Sorry.
Really? Charlotte?
It's a bank town. It's just everybody there works at either a bank or an insurance company. I have one of my best friends in the world lives there, and the first time I visited him and his wife lived. So because it's just rich assholes, there's golf courses everywhere, and some of them are like the discontinued courses that were like cool in the 80s, but now the newer, more modern courses have taken over. So now the area where he lived, so it was inside of a country club, his house. He's not like a rich guy. It's just they had, right when you drive into the country club, there was a row of townhouses. And then once you drive into the neighborhood, there were like the big, McMansions from the 90s and stuff. But
yeah,
he was just in the little townhouse row. And so I get there. It was the first time I visited him and his wife at this spot. And I get out of the car and I was like, oh, good to see you. I was like, man, this is really beautiful. This is nice. And I noticed there was a golf cart, golf cart track behind the house. And I was like, oh, this is great. You can kind of walk around your neighborhood on this golf cart track. And he goes, no, you can't. I was like, why? He's like, this is not a great neighborhood. And it's like on a golf, and I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, so all of the bankers and insurance guys who have like fail sons who are insane and addicted to drugs, they just buy them a house in this neighborhood. And so it's just like unemployed sons of rich people. So it's basically like if Donald Trump Jr. was unemployed, is just wandering around, and they have no spending cash. They live inside of a house that's paid for, but they have no spending cash. So apparently they're just out just robbing people,
what,
stealing shit from cars.
What?
Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's like an unspoken detainment center for like,
yes,
for
it's
like
the
fuck ups
for fail children. Yeah. Like, so I was like, that's the most insane thing I've ever heard. And you don't learn that until you go to Charlotte, that there's a retirement community for criminal children of rich guys who have nothing else to do in life. But
I feel like that would be like a really interesting, that'd be like an interesting documentary though, just in regards to like that world, because like usually when people hear about Trust Fund Baby or whatever, like it's not that they're like downtrodden. It's more that just like they just don't have any drive to do anything.
Right.
So this sounds very different. This sounds like they're essentially, the families have given up on these people and left them to fend for themselves, escape from New York style on an island.
Yeah. But in like a golf course community. Like, so yeah, I don't know if you could do a documentary. You might probably have to fictionalize it, because if you did a documentary, they'd probably steal your equipment.
Okay.
But yeah, so yeah, that's
I
like it. I like to imagine that they've stolen the copper out of their own walls. That those houses are just, they have no plumbing, because they were like, well, I had to sell the copper because my fucking dad wouldn't give me any more money.
Unreal. Do you realize how much of a fuck up you have to be if your family is coming from that type of a position and they just wipe their hands of you? Like you must have really like you're also extremely fortunate because if it weren't for your family, you probably would be on the street. Actually, not probably. You're basically on the street, just with housing. Is essentially what it sounds like. I mean, like, wow, they're like living in like a zombie apocalypse in a cul-de-sac, essentially.
Yeah. It's very, very much like that. But
wow.
Yeah. And then I do remember getting in the car with them. I'm like, all right, because when you go somewhere, you gotta like, all right, what's the thing everybody eats here? Let's go get the food that the town is known for. And he was just like, it's like a hot dog place that is pretty old. I was like, this town. Okay, this town is
this is amazing. So guys, make sure you check out Rivers Langley on his Charlotte, North Carolina tour. He will be doing all the flop houses and hot dog stands in the greater Charlotte area during his.
The show was fun. I want to say shout out to the Evening Muse. It was a really fun show. But just having that little insider view of the city that you wouldn't get from a hotel, just actually staying at the home of a person who lived there, was like, okay, yeah, this is a nice little peek behind the curtain. I did go to the NASCAR museum. They do got that there, so that was pretty much it.
Well, Rivers, as we start wrapping up, and dude, thanks for taking an hour out of your busy schedule from touring Polish people that don't speak English who are in their 80s on party buses. But like before we go, kind of like, are there any countries or any specific locations that you'd like to do comedy at next that you haven't done yet?
That I haven't done. I was going to say, before you said haven't done, I want to go back to Ireland now. Getting to do stand-up in Ireland was so much goddamn fun. I'd be on a plane next week. Hell, I wish, I'm Southern, so I'm what we call Scotch Irish, which doesn't qualify me for Irish citizenship, unfortunately, I don't think. But at any rate, that'd be my number one answer. No, I don't know. South Africa and Australia are two places that I've just always wanted to go, just in general. But particularly Australia, mainly because, again, just through my work, I'd say a good 25% of our business is Aussies. And I have yet to run into a group from that country that I didn't just get along with really well. And I bust them up. They laugh at the tour material. So I was like, all right, maybe they'll laugh at the stand-up stuff. So who knows? But yeah, that'd probably be the number one is Australia. Or I've never actually done stand-up in the UK either. Technically Belfast, but I've been to Ireland. I've done stand-up in Ireland, but not Britannia, London, Scotland, England, that area, Wales. I'd love to do that, but no, just it's a little more. I think Australia would be more my speed, just generally because my experience with the British is, they're like a diesel engine. They're you got to warm them up, and so usually British groups will get in the car and just be like, hello, and then by the afternoon you've kind of worn them down into laughing at you. Aussies are drunk when they get in the car, ready to fucking go, because it's last Thursday at 12 p.m. at where they came from. So they don't know what the fuck time it is.
Yeah.
And they are ready to roll. So I would say Australia is like England's Florida.
So if anybody's hearing this at the Melbourne Fest, for instance, or anyone's got some gigs in Perth or in Sydney or anywhere really in Australia,
anywhere,
Rivers Langley is up for it. Rivers, where can people find you? And why don't you tell people a little bit about Goods from the Woods before we head out?
Oh, yeah. So you can find me on most forms of social media at Rivers Langley, and you can check out my podcast. It's called The Goods from the Woods. We are one of the longest running independent comedy podcasts in Los Angeles. We've been going since September of 2013, and Michael's been on the show twice, so go check out his episodes. Those are both very funny. Last time we had Mike on, we talked about, I think we just read some Reddit complaints about coaches, intramural and youth sports coaches, which was very fun. We taste test energy drinks. We talk about, we have segments. I would say we're like This American Life for idiots. So we've got, if you don't like what's happening, wait 20 minutes. We got a new thing coming up. So a lot of stuff. And then we conclude each episode by going into the YouTube comments of popular songs and reading way too much personal information about people inspired by Boston's More Than a Feeling, or yesterday we did Sharp Dressed Man by ZZ Top, and there was a lot of people. There was one very funny one where a guy was like, I blasted this song outside the courthouse when I won my, when I won custody of my daughter. I danced in front of her mama and gave her the finger and said, "Child support this, bitch." And you're like, what? So, we have a lot of fun over there at the Goods from the Woods, and then from time to time, hopefully we'll have a announcement coming soon about the next show. But I'm also a color commentator for Wrestling Pro Wrestling, an independent comedy wrestling promotion here in town, which is honestly about the most fun thing I do. They give me me and Eric Barnes, also another great comedian, they give us a live mic for about 2 hours as we watch gigantic guys dressed as gigantic squashes fight three-headed giraffes, and it's a wacky fun time. So you can check out all of our stuff at youtube.com/wrestling pro wrestling. So yeah, there's all of our stuff, and follow us on YouTube, youtube.com/thegoods-pod.
So definitely make sure you guys are checking out the Goods from the Woods. I mean, it is honestly one of the most fun podcasts I've ever done in my life. Any other podcast I've ever been on, you guys have also been the most fun podcast I've ever done in my life. I just realized the way I said that. It's like, it's one of the most fun, but then everyone else like, fuck you, man. Had you on my show too. It's like, I didn't say that yours wasn't fun as well too. I had a great time on everyone's podcast. I'm willing to come on anything, guys. So feel free to invite me. Feel free to invite me to come on any show. Obviously, guys,
Michael Magid, I'm willing to come on anything.
That probably taken out of context could get me in a lot of trouble. So let's
clip it.
Let's not clip it like that. Guys, you can follow us at Comedy English on all social media platforms except for Twitter/X, which is comedy, the letter N, and then English, because somebody else took Comedy in English, and that is a comedy show in Berlin that took that handle, and I don't think they do anything with it. But I'm not going to spend the money to get that other handle. I don't even know who's still on Twitter. So for all I know, I'm just putting those out into the ether right over there. Everyone else, it's at Comedy in English. Guys, shows every Wednesday from noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, or 8 p.m. in the UK, which I believe is like 9 p.m. in Spain or France or something like that, guys. We have different comics every show. If you want to donate and support and keep this show going, guys, we got a Stripe in the show notes, which you can use your own credit card. We got PayPal, which is comedyinenglishbookings@gmail.com. That's also the booking link if you want to come on the show and give your spiel. And also we have Venmo, which is at Comedy in English. So we make it pretty simple for you guys to give us money and keep supporting live comedy, virtual comedy podcasts. As Rivers knows, as an independent comedy producer, our shows can only run with the support of yourselves. Isn't that correct?
Yes. Shout out to our Patreon.
Exactly. So we'll put the Goods from the Woods Patreon in the show notes as well too, guys. All right. That's all the time from Comedy in English, and we are out. Later, guys.